Hi everyone, Mark Merrill with Firm. Today we're talking about hacks, assassins, and illegal taxes. Of all things, huh? Ever remember this phrase, folks, from our Constitution? That phrase, taxation without representation is tyranny? Eh, better keep that one in mind as we proceed here. Our two inputs today, folks, are one from the Maine Policy Institute. That is kind of not only a media watchdog, but a legislature and governance on the good side watchdog. It's been around for many years. As we all know, Maine is the only state in the country that you'll soon hear about that chooses political insiders for the state's most important jobs. And it never fails to reward well connected insiders over qualified people for the jobs, including the following segment associated with one-sided governing. Here's just a segment here, folks, from Maine Policy Institute's Jacob Posbeck, who's a legislative affairs representative for MPI. And he gives this update about the topic on hacks and assassins for the 2025 second half of the 2024-25 fiscal legislative year.
The people who pay a lot of attention to what we talk about and what we say and maybe Maine politics in general kind of know the process and how it works. But I actually am quite surprised by how few people I know when I talk to them about it are really up on this. So maybe, I don't know if Jake or if Harris, you want to maybe explain exactly how Maine chooses its Secretary of State, its Treasurer, its Attorney General, really important jobs, right? That every other state, most of them do elections on. Sometimes they're appointed. We don't do either of those things. What do we do?
Maine is the only state in the country that selects all of its constitutional officers in this manner, and the process through which we use is we have basically a joint meeting of all elected members of the House and Senate, and they cast votes by secret ballot to determine the individuals who are selected for these roles. And so the end result, of course, is this really insular process where the people who end up getting nominated are more often than not people who are termed out legislators who are looking to, increase their.
Although this year there was one that was actually still in.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. But.
And to be fair, I can't remember, was Shenna actually termed out, or did she? I thought she was elected and was about to serve the last term of the last 2 years of her term before she went over to the Secretary of State's office. But
yeah, but you're right. More often than not, it's somebody who's on their way out or has been out recently.
Exactly, and has lots of friends in the room. So it's this really insular process. It's like a who's who of whatever party is in power, typically, especially in the House. The House is the more important, since you're talking about 151 members in that chamber versus the Senate. If you could have the minority in the Senate but have a giant majority in the House, on paper, and
doesn't matter, yeah.
Right, you just get to decide. So it's a who's who. It's termed out lawmakers. It's people who really have no right. They really have no qualifications for these offices whatsoever, and I think there's really no better, example that illustrates just how goofy it is than Matt Dunlap himself. He previously served in the legislature, then he became the Secretary of State, then he became the state auditor, and of course he didn't have auditing credentials or anything like that you need to actually do that kind of work. He had to go to school to earn some credentials. He had to take some tests. He failed them. They had to appoint somebody else on an interim basis. Then he finally passed the test, and then now he became the auditor. And who knows, maybe he's the greatest auditor there ever was. But it's really clear to me that if the people of Maine got to elect these positions by popular election, or if we do what some other states do in terms of a lot of these positions can be appointed by the governor with Senate confirmation, very similar to what we're about to see at the federal level with Trump's cabinet, that process. These people would not have these jobs. I don't think Janet Mills would necessarily nominate Aaron Fry right now after everything that he's been through. I'm not sure that she would nominate Shenna Bellows at the outset, let alone after everything
certainly bet not.
that has happened in that office over the last, probably 6 months or so. So, on the whole, it's a bad process. It favors well-connected current and former legislators in Augusta, and these are really, like, I don't think we can underscore enough just how important these positions are. Like, these aren't people who you want partisan hacks who are, shooting for higher office, basically. But that's what we get. We get these people who have lots of political ambition. They want to make a name for themselves, and they fulfill these roles in a highly partisan way that I would say is really counterproductive to, like, the operations of state government. And probably no better example of that, quite frankly, is Janet Mills, who also served in the legislature, was then the Attorney General, and fought, all the time with former Governor Paul LePage during his term.
And that really related to her political ambition, right?
Yeah, and that certainly didn't hurt her prospects at becoming the next governor after LePage, you know what I mean? So that's the process in Maine. I would say that's also exactly why it's flawed.
And we thank the Maine Policy Institute for that information. Jason Posbeck, the Legislative Affairs Representative for Maine Policy Institute. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving along here on Firm, discussing, of course, hacks, assassins, and illegal taxes, or as we started at the outset, folks, taxation without representation is pretty much tyranny. Now, here we have an update from, as you can see, House Representative Laurel Libby, representative and Republican from Auburn, Maine, and her new assignment in the House Labor Committee. Ms. Libby came out and said, basically, it is the Committee of Jurisdiction for all bills related to the Department of Labor, wage laws and workers' compensation and more, including any bills that are dealing with the new paid family and medical leave program you probably heard about in the media, and corresponding tax increase Maine workers will have to start paying in January. She says, quote, today, I wanted to share a conversation I had last week regarding the new 1% payroll tax for the paid family leave program at a networking event with legislators and business owners. She met with a woman from Canada who operates a business in Maine and had an interesting perspective on the issue. She said at the start of the conversation she would not testify in favor of a bill to change or repeal Maine's new 1% payroll tax that will start being deducted from paychecks in January. She runs a company with a generous family medical leave program, and she told Ms. Libby that she believes workers deserve that kind of support. Ms. Libby asked if offering this benefit helped at all and attract and to also retain employees. And she confirmed it did. Her employees are loyal, and she said they feel valued. When I asked her this question, did the government mandate you to provide this benefit? She smiled and said, no, it's something her company does voluntarily because it makes sense for her business and her team. That led us into a great discussion about the free market. Ms. Libby suggested that when businesses compete to attract talent, they often create benefits that are far more flexible and innovative than what any one-size-fits-all government program could mandate. Oh, gee, you know what? That sounds familiar. Maybe that's why 77 plus million Americans in this country voted for Donald Trump. To get us back into a republic that is not only by the people, but for the people. Period. She paused for a moment and admitted that while the idea of a government family leave program sounded good in theory, it didn't quite sit right with her that all businesses would now be forced to comply, regardless of their size or situation. She runs a successful business, but she sympathized, the employer, with smaller companies that don't have the margins to absorb another tax hike, especially one tied to payroll, which directly impacts hiring decisions. That's the crux of it. This paid family medical leave program and associated new 1% payroll tax might sound good to some, but it's going to hurt both businesses and workers in the short and long run. For businesses, especially small ones, says Ms. Libby, it's one more cost to shoulder in an already challenging economy. For workers, needless to say, but here it is. The tax will likely lead to fewer job opportunities, slower wage growth, reduced flexibility as employers struggle to stay afloat under new burdens. The only thing it seems the deflectocrats are good at. Keep throwing good money after bad. The real solution lies in the free market, where businesses have the freedom to craft benefits that fit their teams and their budgets, and employees can determine if the wages and benefits at any given job are the right fit for them. The government stepping in with mandates and payroll taxes stifles innovation and burdens the very people it's supposedly trying to help. Ms. Libby believes that we, the people, need to advocate for policies that support businesses in creating value for their workers, without adding layers of bureaucracy and taxation, as per the norm previously. Let's keep the conversation going. Feedback and ideas are always welcome. And we'll let you know, folks, how you can stay in contact with Ms. Libby and also the Maine Policy Institute. Here's just a brief outline here, folks, of what the plans are or what can possibly happen. And we'll give you a link to this one as well, talking about billions of dollars that Janet Mills wants to propose on the next 2 fiscal year budgets. Get in touch with your lawmakers, folks. We need to stop this, especially now with the new administration coming in Washington. Meantime, as always, folks, stay abreast of all types of news programs and issues that we try to discuss on a regular basis on Firm, our podcasts, on rumble.com/fairnessmedia1, Twitter, YouTube, and emails 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As always, stay safe. Peace to everyone.